Hi, this is Shoshana Brigette from Color Karma. I am here with Kristen Dettoni, founder of Design Pool and Domando Designs, Frank Romano, president of the Museum of Print in Haverhill and the Godfather of Print, and an old colleague of mine, Doug Menkhaus, production system analyst from ProSource in Cincinnati, Ohio. Welcome, guys. Thank you, Frank and Doug. And welcome back, Kristen.
Thanks.
Doug, you and I know each other from Xerox days. And Frank, you know everything about anything having to do with print. Yes, you do. And Kristen comes from a textile background. So I wanted to talk about printing on textiles because it's still, people make the assumption that print is just on paper. And there's lots and lots of textiles that you can print on.
And Shoshana, this is great timing. I actually am involved in a customer discussion. Customer reached out to us to say, I need to print on linen. I need to print on bed sheets, and I need it to be durable. And I need it to be inexpensive. And I don't know how to do it. They currently provide bed sheets to the hospital industry. They provide the laundry services. And the issue is they were using old-fashioned T-shirt heat presses, heat transfers, to put the hospital logo on each one of the sheets. And that way they could keep track of which sheet went where. Track of it. Oh, you're fading away. There you go. Right onto that.
There you go.
So,
that's the standard heat transfers, that tactile feel you can feel on the T-shirts.
Yeah. Now, I remember heat transfers have been around forever. You know, we all did heads and T-shirts when color copiers became the new thing, 20, 25 years ago. But this particular customer is having an issue with the supplier being consistent and on time. So he decided, why can't we just do it ourselves? And reached out to me and said, what's the way, how do we do it? What are the options? He has done a little bit of research and came up with the idea that he's probably going to be doing some sort of dye sublimation printer to print a 3 or 4 inch wide logo on the corner of each bed sheet, or each corner of the bed sheet. He's looking for reliability, durability. It has to go through the wash, industrial washes up to 250 times. So this is perfect that you held this. I appreciate it because you're going to help me do a little research for this potential customer. So great timing.
Well, the first thing that I would think is, if I wanted durability, it would be screen printing.
Yeah, exactly.
Down the greatest density of ink. However, that's very slow, and for what you want to do, it's probably too expensive.
So interesting, because I always thought screen printing, aside, if you take the hardware out of it, if I make an initial investment in hardware and setup, and I always thought 2 things about screen printing: it's filthy dirty, and it's incredibly cheap. Now, cost per piece, if I'm not mistaken, because I'm really just looking, once I have my screen made, I'm just wiping ink on a text.
Exactly. And it's a 4 inch by 4 inch. So it's very easy.
And because it's very time consuming, because you've got to put each piece down to do it. That's true. That's where the cost is.
Yeah.
Are the bed sheets
information in that regard?
Are the sheets already made, or are they printing them and then making the sheets?
No, the sheets are actually purchased packaged. They come in a square sheet, like you would expect to see something, say, if you went shopping at JCPenney and got a bed sheet. His thought was, when I could easily open the sheet and pull off a corner and put it on a bed of some printing apparatus if I had to, and then of course we throw it in the wash. So he's open. He doesn't know what approach he's looking at. I thought about screen printing, but I thought it's my first thought is it's so messy. I've been in multiple T-shirt shops where they're just ink all over the place, and I'm not sure if that's something he wanted to do.
The T-shirts, they've got it down to a science.
Yeah.
Your problem here is you're going to have to open the whole sheet in order to get the corner that you want flat.
Yep.
That's a good point. That's a good point too. So I think there's a way around that. They're going to have to open the sheets and find those corners. By the way, interesting thing about bed sheets are they're twice as long as the bed because they rotate. They rotate them, I guess, if they get soiled. If there's not another sheet available, they just rotate it from the bottom side, which I thought was, so your sheets are twice as long, which is interesting.
So even if you went digital, you still have a problem is, how are you going to position the sheet so that the head of the inkjet machine can move in some intelligent way.
Yeah. And the
Point.
smaller devices are going to be like t-shirt machines. You have to line it up. So if he's buying already pre-made bed sheets, that's going to be a problem. I go back to, the automatic embroidery where you just line it up and let it go. But
No,
it's
that's-
still going to be one by one.
Well, that's true. They're one by one. Actually, I believe it's ×4 because each corner gets the logo.
Each corner?
Oh, wow. Each corner.
Each corner? Why?
Ease of sorting. I don't know. That I do need to find out. But embroidery is an interesting idea. I was always curious about how well embroidery stands up in the wash. Pretty good, I imagine.
Oh yeah, embroidery would be the best thing you could do, but I would think that would be the
Absolutely.
most expensive as well.
Okay, all right. So most durable, but most expensive also, and time consuming.
Could you not feed the sheet through a printer?
It's still going to be something like the size of like the Rico ones, like the t-shirt machine. You still have to line it up because he's buying pre-printed sheet. I mean,
I know, but
pre-production sheets already. They're already done. He's opening up
But
the
it wouldn't be
box.
any different than it's flat, other than maybe a seam. Wouldn't it not be any different than just putting roll goods through a
Yes,
machine?
but with roll goods, it's one big roll.
Right. It's a roll.
And then it
Like a
goes-
newspaper. It's a roll.
Right.
Yeah, but can't you just
You've got sheets. And
yeah,
so
you're just feeding the sheet through the machine.
No, you got all the crinkly
Doesn't
bits
work
and
that
bobs
way.
on the end.
No, you know what? She's onto something there,
just
Kristen.
iron it, and then put it through. I mean,
No, I'm
all I
not
know is I work with a lot of different printers who print on a lot of different substrates, and these people are like ingenious on what they can do. So I don't know. It seems to me like you could just be like zoop.
But you can. And there's tons of bed sheets I've seen that are digitally printed. I got the mask today, right? These are digitally printed. But they're not already a bed sheet. They're a roll of material that are then sewn into
Let's
the
take
bed sheet.
Kristen's idea and blow this up a little bit to
It's still flat.
out of the box. What if we put that? Say money is no object. What if we put that on a flatbed, 4x8 flatbed printer? That instead of ink, well, we have to find a durable ink. I know water-based inks aren't going to last very long. I was initially thinking, Kristen, to run it through a wide format inkjet, but then would the linen be strong enough to get through there? Probably not. So
But what
have
about
that
when they're printing like?
finishing on both sides.
yeah,
What about when they're printing like giant pieces of plywood or something?
right, like a 4x8 flatbed printer. I just dropped that thing on there.
That's a solid piece at that point. So if you're going to use a flatbed printer, you're going to have to turn it into the corners to keep it flat in some
Yeah.
way. When you do that, you're going to use up some of the corner space that you want to print on.
Right. And then
But
on
that's
top of
okay,
it,
they
you're
probably-
still,
But
you
they
have to put
probably
it to a
don't
shape.
need- But honestly, if you think about it, they probably don't need every corner or like right on the corner. They probably could just do, if you did it on a flatbed, could you not just do like a strip at the bottom and a strip at the top versus like 1, 2, 3, 4? Then it's just
Yeah.
1 and 1.
Maybe.
Put the barcode in there when you add the barcode.
See, you're coming back to the barcode. I love the barcode idea.
But you know what I mean? I mean, you're either way you're printing it. So you'd want to do it the path of least resistance. Well, if you are printing it, the path of least resistance. So rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, wouldn't it just make sense to do like a small strip?
across the bottom of the sheet.
Yeah. And
It
then
doesn't care. It only knows XY positions. I
Right.
think
Right.
flatbed inkjet
Yeah.
is your best bet. And UV ink is your best bet.
Yeah. So I have a different question because we're talking about bed sheets and you said it was for hospitals, right?
Right. Yep.
Are these the bed
Hundreds of
sheets
years.
like we have at home that have the elastic around? Are they flat sheets like the old way we used to do it with the envelope
Ah,
corner? Because
good
if they are
question.
flat sheets,
I-
you're in full production. It's a roll.
I
Yeah.
think
You just
they're
have to make the
flat.
pretty little stitching at the top. That's it. Wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. You're done.
Yeah. They're flat. They're not. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're.
I might know someone. If you need someone to print them, I might know someone that could do it.
Okay.
Flatbed inkjet.
I might send my customer. His goal is to control the production. He's relying on a third-party vendor that's not able to keep up either for whatever reason, and he wants to bring that in-house and control the production himself. They're a laundry service, so they're a company that's completely new to everything there is about print, from probably color design specifications, printing technologies. So they're literally going to start fresh with this idea. And I definitely want to be able to help them out.
Yeah.
Where are they based?
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So tens of thousands of bed sheets a month is
Yes. So
Oh.
Doug, if it's a flat sheet,
Mhm.
then that's a continuous feed inkjet. I mean, you could do
it's
that.
not. No, these are individual sheets. This is not
No.
one thing.
I'm saying it's cheaper to do it by the roll and just have somebody stitch it at the end. Instead
saying-
of opening
so you're
these
saying if they're
boxes
gonna
one by
print-
one by one with a sheet.
Yeah. If they're going to go, I see what you're saying. If they're going to get into print production, let's take it a
Yeah.
step.
Make the
And
have
get
them
the
make
bed sheets.
Yeah.
Get the bed sheets, make them, really, you just buy the material.
You just buy the material, because why buy bulk bed sheets, have to unpack every single one, which is a waste of plastic, by the way, which
Mhm.
is something I don't want to do. But why open them one by one? Then you have to spread them out. They already have folds and are ironed. So now you got to figure that out, lay it out on some inkjet. That makes no sense.
I
That's
see where
so
you're going with
time
that.
consuming.
If you go
Just
with
buy
a
the roll and fold the top and stitch it across.
So if you go with a roll-fed machine, it's a cheaper machine than a flatbed.
Sure. Okay.
Makes
Yep.
a lot of sense.
A lot
it's-
cheaper.
But it's multiple operations. You've got to print it,
Get it cut and sew.
roll to roll, then you're going to have to cut it and then sew it.
Correct. Right. Well, the question is how deep do you want to get into controlling your production? You know?
Yeah.
And this part I don't know. Can he offer, or is there a premium? I can't believe that there would be. But is there a premium that he can recoup by offering, instead of just a small logo, the entire name of the hospital, for example? I don't know if if the bed sheet is an advertising medium or not. That would be interesting.
No, but it's about an experience, and branding the bed sheets in one corner, not four. That would be weird. Would be part of, that whole experience that hospitals, just like everybody else, is trying to create. I know it's a little weird, Kristen.
No, well, I'm just
is.
saying, knowing the industry, like, they're not going to pay for it. I mean, I don't think the customer is going to, the customers are sick. They just want to get the heck out of there. So, and they're really going to care about what's visually in front of them, like whether it's a picture. I don't think they're going to be
Yeah.
looking at the bed sheets, but it does open up your customer to do more printing. And if they wanted to get into other stuff, they could get into high-end custom bed sheets for other people that were, specialized, branded, whatever. So, I mean, it does open the door for them to get into other things. And
Once they get
I
their
think-
feet wet. and
yeah, I
learn-
mean, print on demand is so popular. And I got to tell you, I can't find anyone that can print bed sheets on demand and, go wide. So
By the way, what is the number of feet for each of the sheets?
He told me, I apologize. I should have
It's
this.
like a twin, right?
probably twin
It's
size.
it's a twin, but it's twice as long.
Yeah.
Because it wraps all the way around the mattress.
Right.
Yeah.
So that if something happens, you just roll it.
It's
Kind
something.
of like that.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
exactly.
when my kids were little and they were potty training, you did a sheet, and then you did the plastic sheet, and then
Yep.
another sheet. So that in the middle of the night, I was not changing sheets. I was like, all right,
That's a
roll,
great
go back
idea.
to sleep. I'll fix it in the morning.
That's a great idea.
It's
That's
very
awesome.
efficient.
I want to go back to my customer and dig deeper. I know he's looking for how do I do this and how can I get started? But we could take this a little further. Earlier, Kristen, you mentioned barcoding. I think that is a phenomenal idea for tracking, the number of times, how old the sheet is, where the sheet came from, which batch it's in, when is it time to retire the sheet. I think that's a beautiful thing. 2D, 3D, whatever.
And if you get,
What color are the sheets?
I believe they're white. I
they're
just
right. It's a hospital.
assume they were,
No, some are green, by the way.
oh, that's true. That's that.
So barcodes might have difficulty with the background color.
That's true. That's true. Interesting. Yeah, it's neat stuff to talk about.
So Gerber Technology, their whole process, they also print in their process little QR codes so that when it goes from the printer to the cutter, it knows exactly what to cut where.
Sure.
And so it goes through that whole process. So you could QR code it, put an inline cutter,
Gerber is good
and
at.
that QR code can even, just add a secondary QR code for whatever, Kristen, date, lot number, hospital name, how many, whatever it is. And you just
Yeah,
keep
that's-
track of it.
I like this idea. I'm excited. I'm gonna have a nice
You
conversation.
now have your client like what, cutting, printing. So we have them doing
All
everything.
automated. So
Getting
this
into
was
other businesses, expanding their business.
And you know what? We're gonna talk about pillowcases next.
Yes.
so this is a show and tell. So Kristen, did you bring anything to show? I showed my
I did.
mask.
I brought lots and lots of stuff. So everything I have is digitally printed, but it's all on different substrates, which I think is really fun. So I have some printed on, I would guess we're sort of maybe a knit, but then they're coated. So these are actually for floor mats in just 3 different colors. And it's for a company called Gel Pro. They're anti-fatigue floor mats for your kitchen. They're actually very comfy. And then this is a silicone based coating, also digitally printed on, I guess like a light knit, which is really fun. This is for upholstery, coming soon. This is hot off the presses. And then of course I love when Spoonflower has a sale. So got a bunch of printed cotton. But then what's fun to see too is I have this printed at Spoonflower, and then I had some of this printed on a really nice linen, and you can see like the color difference, obviously, depending on what substrate is printing. This was from a friend of mine who has a fun little print shop in Rhode Island, and I really should remember her name, but I apologize that I've forgotten. And what else did I bring? And then, so speaking of your, Doug, your customer cutting and sewing. So this is digitally printed. This is my bag. And this is done through, I think I got these through Zzzle, but this was actually Manual Woodworkers that does the print, cut, and sew. So these types of products, these on-demand types of products are growing like crazy, which also, I mean, these are the products that kind of help me start the online store, because I mean, all you need is a pretty pattern and you can pretty much get it printed on anything these days.
Anything you want.
Yeah.
So, Kristen, I'm curious about the printing methodology, because that's what I'm here for. But prior to this, I watched a few videos, YouTubing at 12 o'clock at night, and found a really interesting printing, how to print on textiles, or definition of printing on textiles by an Indian lady. And there's a lot of manual. I would almost call it, they call it printing. I would almost call it painting. She goes through the entire different process between started with screen printing, using different rolls to use production work. And then there's a lot of what looks like hand printing, at least over in India, where they're literally taking blocks of design, putting paint and smashing them onto the, I didn't know that was still such a popular thing. And it looks very simple, really. Is that this, or is this digital?
What's that? Sorry.
Is that your samples that you showed, especially the last one, the bag? What's the print method for that?
Oh, so everything I do is digital, but it's funny you say that. So I actually have done a lot of block printing in the past, like physical block printing. And then I'll take those and scan the images in, and then I'll manipulate them in Illustrator, put them in Repeat, and then get those printed. So I will say one thing that's great about the digital printing is you can, depending on the techniques you're using, you can get a very like hand feel to it. So it can almost kind of fake you out a little bit, thinking it was maybe hand done when it really is all
Isn't.
So, and the cool thing too, what I try and do is, since so many surfaces, I'm trying to find something that might be easy to read, are flat. I try and add, like, I mean, not so much here, but you can see like I'll add a lot of texture. So this just has a lot of like different plaids. Or this one has, I don't know if you can see, it has a bit of like a texture in the, like a little weave texture there, because everything is, especially in commercial interiors and really in residential in your home, like people like really tactile things. I don't know if you've noticed, but like textures have been so important, I would say, gosh, for the last 8 years. And I think even after COVID, where we haven't been able to touch so many things. First it was technology, because everything was so slick. And now I think because COVID, like just a visual texture or an actual texture is super important. So everything I do tends to have a lot of texture to it, a lot of little like, graphic textures that I'll then apply within the pattern itself. Like you can see this one too. I don't know if you can see, it has like a little bit of a weave texture in there.
Do you specify the density?
What's that?
Do you specify the density?
The density of the print?
How thick you want the ink?
I don't.
Yeah. When Frank and I think
Textile, they
pictures,
don't.
yeah, I wonder.
I'm talking texture within like within graphics programs, within like building texture within Photoshop and Illustrator. So it's like
Yeah.
a visual texture. The only thing I have that would be textural where would maybe be like some wall coverings that I can print on that actually have a little bit of texture to it or a little bit of bite to it. Or sometimes some of the textiles will have more like a more woven effect. If you look at some of the printed textiles for home furnishings, they tend to, the wovens themselves tend to be very textural before they even apply the print to it. So again, it's kind of like, because printed textiles are competing with woven textiles, you're trying to add as much texture as possible within the fabric and or the print quality, if that makes sense. So
yeah, it does. Yeah, take advantage of the substrate that you're working on.
yeah. So and it's great, like seeing how much the printing technology has improved to be able to print on some really textural surfaces has been really great to see. I'm waiting for like a really good carpet though. Like they make a really nice low pile carpet, but I want like a really good high pile carpet that's cool printed. Yeah.
So to your point, this is digitally printed. You can tell by the material and how smooth it is. And it's not a weave in any way, shape, or form. But, you know, to your point, it's how do you make stuff tactile? And there are jeans now that have tons and tons of embroidery up and down the sides. Sundance, I have a pair. That's how I know. They're in the wash all the time. It would be so cool to have those, start adding stitching around things to add that real tactile feel to it, because you can automate some of them. You can automate embroidery today.
Right.
So you can add that component. All right, now we're going direct
No,
to.
so no, I was going to show you just, so this was actually a block print that I did and then turned it into a pattern. So through the computer and then printed it. So, I mean, this could be printed on textiles too, but you can see it's like very rough, just the way the block print itself is. So, and this reminds me of some of the, I mean, not the actual look, but kind of the Indian block printing you were talking about. That's not perfect, which I think is a really nice aesthetic, not to have it be so perfect every time.
Sure. Yeah. No, I think direct to object is finally it's here, and you know, direct to your water bottle. It's here. I think it's almost a novelty to me, and you can see this at the county fairs. Have your photo printed on a water bottle, stuff like that. Because the cost, I think, if you're going to go, if you want 500 or 5,000 water bottles with the team logo on them, you're going to do that in traditional printing methods. So direct to object is neat. But I still, like I say, I see that at a kiosk in the shopping mall in the future. So
those are cute, but there's still so much. I mean, even footwear is silk screened. I've seen it. You just go in and hundreds of people are sitting there just silk screening over and over and over again.
Right. I think
Frank,
what you make, I've seen some really neat down in Texas last year at Print. Or was that the year before? Whatever, I'm losing track. There were some automated screen printing machines in there where, you know, the t-shirt just goes from station to station to station. You have 12 stations set up, and you know, the machines are now, you don't need the manual labor to do the work anymore. So it's still a very viable method for printing on textile.
Yeah.
What I was fascinated with, so I just bought I don't know if you guys have heard of the Cricut machines. Have you ever heard of those Cricut machines?
Yeah, the hobbyist machines that you get in Michael's.
Yeah, so I just bought one because I needed to do all this crazy like window cutting, and I didn't want to do it with an X-Acto by hand. So I bought a Cricut, and now, so you can print on fabric or you can cut fabric with them, but they also have these like mug makers. Have you seen those, Shoshana?
Yeah, it's an add-on.
Yeah, that you like, you print your, I don't know what you printed on. They must have special paper or something, but you print on it. They give you a little machine, you put your white mug in there, and it actually prints or transfers the print onto the mug, a one-off for like, the home hobbyist. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, that's insane. Insanely cool.
I was just at a customer today, and they have a big t-shirt operation in the back, and they just got the mug maker add-on, and they're just playing around, see what it would do, and they printed off using standard AB style transfer paper, and they printed it off and stuck it in the machine and heated it, and it just slid right off the cup. And they're like, "What?" So there's a glaze on the cup. They bought a bunch from Costco or wherever, and the glaze prevented the. Like, well, that doesn't work. But it's all about experimentation.
Let me ask you a question, Frank. You do textile at all at the museum?
Only with letterpress.
Only with
Okay.
letterpress.
Nothing else.
So business cards were really big with letterpress, where you get that raised ink and you get that tactile feel. The look.
No.
Hmm?
You don't get that with a business card. That's done with thermography.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
That was with the powder you put on and the heat went poof,
That's right.
which is like puffy t-shirts from the 70s. You put the ink and it went poof.
But with letterpress, don't you get the indentation? Isn't that what like a traditional
Yeah.
letterpress? It gives you that cool like emboss,
Yeah,
well, a
it's
light emboss.
Depending on how you print with it. By the way, in the old days of letterpress, you would have never done that. You would have never seen any indentation. But that's what people want today. They want that texture that comes from it.
There you go, texture. It's all about texture.
Tactile.
There it is.
So
All about
Kristen,
texture.
I have a question for you. When you make a file for all of this stuff, and I don't care what program you use, do you send the printer a PDF?
I actually send them whatever they need from me. So it really varies. Typically, I would say a lot of them work directly from the AI file and then they do what they need to do with it on their end. But sometimes, especially like with the online store and working through Printify, they have different, like I said, they work with like Manual Woodworkers or Spoke and a bunch of other, print companies. And some of them, even Spoonflower only wants 150 DPI JPEG. That has an RGB, I forget. So they give you like really specific parameters. And again, that's if you want to, I think that's if you're like, you want the same color printed over and over again, because obviously they're calibrating on their end. So they're giving you instructions. But I was kind of surprised because I'm always of the mindset that you want everything 300 DPI. And like, why would you want anything less? But in some cases, yeah, it's like 150. And I think in one case it was even 100. And I thought, oh, but the print quality is still great. So yeah, I don't know what they're doing on their end. I was just like, just tell me what you need and I'll send you what you need to get it printed.
I'm actually shocked that you have a printer who will take a textile person who will take it as an AI file. Cause what I hear is JPEGs, TIFFs, 150 DPI, that's it. And you don't have the flexibility to do anything else. Once you've made it into that TIFF file or that JPEG, you can't scale it. You can't do anything, right? The AI file, at least there, it's a vector file. You can manipulate it still. You have the original data. You have the original file to work with.
Yeah. So I would say for me, all my files are AI because of that, because I want them vector. I want them to be scalable without having to worry about resolution.
Yeah.
The people that I work with that want my AI files are the ones that are going to manipulate them on their end. So it's usually my, commercial interior customers. Because if they get a custom request that their customer wants it a little larger, then they don't have to come back to me. They can just alter it and, reprint it. The people like Spoonflower and Zzzle and those guys, I mean, they're just printing exactly what you send them. So, and plus the file sizes for AI are so big. Although I take it back, Zzzle will let you upload an AI file. And in fact, because within their software, you can scale up and scale down. So obviously the AI file, to your point, Shoshana, is perfect for that. And if you do drop in a JPEG and you scale it up really big, then you get an error message from them saying that, hey, this is, going to be pixelated. So it's pretty good. I mean, that it gives you all that detail. I think with, I'm trying to think, Spoonflower, I don't think you can scale up and down. I think that's why the file size is set. You can just like tile it different ways, but I'm pretty sure like the size is the size kind of thing, or it just fits within their parameters. So like I said, it really just depends on who you're dealing with, who you're, talking to, and what they're requesting. And I'm like, hey, I'll give it however you want it. So
yeah, Zzzle is interesting because their interface of how you interact with it is the closest I've seen to when, photo books, when you laid it out. So it gives you the edges, it tells you the warnings when you scale it and it's not the right DPI, or it's not, you upload a low res file, it gives you those warnings to at least to try and give you a head start of, you're not going to be happy with that output, even though it looks good on your screen, it's the wrong DPI, it's not correct. So their interface is really nice. And they do some great things with Adobe where you can, upload your file, your design, and now they offer basically I can go in then and variable it. So I could upload this background and you could change the logo to be your logo for ProSource. So I'll do the design, and then on top of it, any consumer can go in and alter some key areas that have been in there.
Yeah, because everyone like monogrammed, everyone loves to
Right.
have their name on things or initial on things. But so
Right.
I have a question for you, and pardon my ignorance. So you're saying that you can print on fabric at the museum with the, I forget what you said, the
Letterpress.
I
letterpress.
can use wood type, metal type, or an engraving
So on fabric?
on fabric. In
Mhm.
fact, if you go downtown Haverhill, the Buttonwoods Museum, because Haverhill was a big town for making shoes and printing shirts, they have phenomenal samples of various linens that were printed by letterpress.
Oh, very nice. I have to go visit him again now.
So is it imagery? Because I think letterpress, I think letters. So again, pardon my ignorance. So I'm
No,
assuming it's imagery?
You can make an engraving. You can either carve it yourself, or you can have it made as an electrotype or some other kind of engraving, and then
Right.
integrate it with your type, and then print. In fact, what we're going to do in August, we have a big group of letterpress people coming. We're going to produce an engraving, and then they're going to put the number of their membership. This is an organization that keeps track of everybody by number, and so we're going to have them print a napkin with this image, and then they'll put their number in, and that will be printed as part of it.
Oh, that's gonna be great.
Oh. So is
That
it
would be
similar
fun.
to sort of like making an etching plate? Because I'm familiar with like etching from art school. Is it kind of similar to that? Then you
Yeah.
use that plate. So you'd want to like do everything in reverse, I guess,
As
right?
long
If
as it's
you want-
raised, it makes no difference whether it's an engraving made with zinc or copper. Sometimes they're called electrotypes. Sometimes they're called photo engravings, depending on the process they use.
That is very cool.
And the
And
company
then
that makes them is it's called Owasso, and they're in Wisconsin.
There you go.
and are the inks is the fabric washable, or is it just sort of like cool but don't wash it?
You have to use inks that can go through washing. You can't
Yeah.
use normal letterpress inks that you would use for paper.
Okay.
Yeah, no
Yes,
matter what, textiles is a whole other beast because it's not just paper, it's on your skin. And so it has all these rules of, what's the inks made out of? Where do they come from? How many washes? What's the UV fade tolerance? I mean, that's the AATCC. They have all those specifications that have to pass for their products.
I mean, just go back to the early 1800s. They were printing dresses and all kinds of cloth. And the only process they had was letterpress. There was nothing else.
Nothing
So
else.
I was going to ask you that. So all the early textile printing was letterpress.
That is correct.
Do you know what inks they were using back then?
No, I don't.
Oh, that's
Oh.
fascinating. I wonder if it was like, like organic inks, if I mean, I
Just
don't
making
know. Like,
plant-based or something like
yeah,
that.
like, hey, blueberries.
Yeah, right.
Well, indigo,
They wouldn't-
right?
Indigo, mhm.
Mustard seeds.
They would
That's
not have
why
been
in New England you
water-based
have
like
that
water.
yellow, right? That's from mustard seed.
Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
So
You think
yeah,
they use that to print?
Sure.
you can do beet juice.
You guys,
can dye
Frank, you
things
should
with
do a
beets.
whole textile show at the museum with like cool old textiles.
Hey, there you go, Frank. Hmm? Challenge.
We got enough on our plate right now.
I know, right? Sorry.
I just
Oh,
finished the Bible exhibit, and we're starting the newspaper exhibit.
Did you have old Gutenberg press and get it
Yeah.
queued up?
And the one that's coming up that I like the most is called Printing Before the Internet. Things that were printed
Life
that are not
before the
printed
internet.
anymore.
Mhm.
So I've been collecting green stamps and phone books and road maps, things that you don't generally find anymore.
Ah,
Oh God, where
I
did I
need a
just?
roadmap. I like roadmaps.
Yeah, I put out a request and tons of people sent me road maps.
Oh, I bet they did. I bet they did. Outdated too, I'm sure. That's all right.
But a
So
lot of
guys,
people
I
don't
want to
realize-
thank you. Go
I've-
ahead, Frank.
I've been advertising on NPR, and I'm getting a whole different breed of people coming in who are more interested in the books, newspapers, the traditional printed materials. They're not
Really?
interested in the process. They're interested in what results from the process. So it's a
Okay.
different audience, which is interesting.
That's okay. That's all
Is
right.
it expensive to advertise on
I don't mind.
NPR?
It's very expensive, but it's bringing in an audience, which is what we need right now with this pandemic.
Well, that's good.
And I've heard those. They're great.
That's all.
I need to get over there. And Doug, I need to hear how it goes with your client. Now I'm
Yes,
super
I'd like
curious.
to follow up on that story.
Absolutely. I
We
will
need to see
where we-
samples.
Yeah, I'll see. We'll hopefully in a couple months, maybe we come up with some prototype solutions. The customer bites off on it, and we'll see if we solve their problem. But
And
this
when
is
they start
very helpful
printing,
for me.
when they
Mhm.
start printing bed sheets, I want in on that action.
There you go.
Then you can put it over your head and cut out 2 eyeballs.
There you go. When they're used. Now, wait, when they hit that 250, we remarket those as ghost sheets. So
There you go. I like that.
Glow in the dark sheets.
with-
Can't find the bed.
Shoshana, this has been fun.
Yes, it is. Thank you guys so very much. Kristen, Frank, Doug, I so appreciate it. And we will talk again next time.
Take care,
Absolutely.
everybody.
That's
Take
good.
care.
Bye
Okay.
now.